Okay.
I turned us on there for a minute
Why are we recording?
because it's a meeting. Hasn't been called to order yet, but I need to open up the meeting in order to let in anybody who is coming.
Are we?
So
recording?
maybe we'll open the meeting and get that out of the
And-
way. So if you could start recording, we'll start the special meeting for January 19th, 2022 of the Austining Board of Trustees. And if you'd all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance to the
to the
flag
flag of the United
United
States
States of America,
and to
to
the
the
republic
republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
And we are joined by Brenda Burback, who I'm going to bring in as a
Wow.
panelist, if I am successful.
They're going into exec.
I guess we can go into exec, and I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session in a second.
Oh,
And I have,
Alice,
and all those in favor, aye, aye. And we move into executive session. Thank you, Kathy. And joining us is Barbara Burback. Hi, Barbara. This is Matthew Weiss.
Nice to meet you.
Hi,
And
Brenda.
you
Hi.
can see the names of all the other trustees joining us soon. I imagine will be Althema Goodson. She's on her way. And you may or may not know Karen LaRockefels. She's our director at the Austining Library.
Hi.
And we're appreciative of your desire to join the Board of Trustees. And I hope you had a chance to look at some of the materials, whether it's
Yes.
the bylaw, okay, and the strategic plan specifically. I was curious if you had any reactions or comments about that.
I was thrilled with the strategic plan, to tell you the truth. I am a big proponent of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I was part of a women's group at my job for years before we had any diversity, equity, inclusion. And they just started a program, and I'm on 3 separate committees at work associated with that, including the Hispanic, Latino ERG and the Women's ERG. So it's a passion.
I'm glad that you have a long-range plan. Thank you for doing that.
Of course.
And in the context of working with libraries, do you have any opinion about the idea that a library might fill in or use a role, or how to employ DEI going forward? For us, it's a new experience.
I think it's a great opportunity for Austining because we do have such a diverse community here. And you basically see, and I'm going to say it, you see mostly white people using the library, especially the library programs I've been to. So it seems like the Spanish language section is not that large. And I think it's a great opportunity to bring in the community.
How long have you been in Austining?
12 years. And I'm originally from Brooklyn.
Oh,
And I work in the Bronx. So
Cecilia.
I did it. I'm sorry. Where do you work? What kind of work do you do?
I work for the Wildlife Conservation Society, which operates the Bronx Zoo, the New York Aquarium, and the 3 city zoos. We call them Prospect Park, Central Park, Queens Zoo. I do environmental compliance and sustainability and safety for the organization. And I'm based in the Bronx. I go to the aquarium once a week in Brooklyn. And yeah, I love it. I've been there for 17 years.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm a Brooklynite too. What does ERG stand for?
Oh, Employee Resource Group. I'm sorry. It's a term in the diversity, equity, inclusion field to bring alliance groups together. So to better improve their experience at work and to really serve the community. So I'm on the Hispanic Latino group as an ally, and the women's group because I've been doing the women's group stuff. I was a leader on the women's group for 5 or 6 years, and then it formed into an ERG, and I stepped back from the leadership role because I'm doing other things in ERG, but I'm still involved.
Thank you.
Any other questions? This is open to the entire floor. Just a little more background. The board meets monthly. Our meetings can
Okay.
run 1 to 2 hours. And then we ask trustees to join committees.
Mhm.
Hours are pretty standard, ranging from personnel to buildings and grounds and finance.
Okay. Yep, I'm familiar with all of those. I'm actually right now the president of the board where I live in the Austin Camp Meeting Association. So it's the Camp Woods grounds. And I've been on that board for 10 years and served as president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary in my time on the board. And I've been on our Buildings and Grounds Committee, our Finance Committee, our Programs Committee. As the president, you have to be on all the committees. But right after this, I actually have a Programs Committee for Camp Woods grounds.
Is that a historic landmark? The Camp
It is
Woods?
not, it's not historic landmark, but it is listed in like the Ossining Book of Historic Places. You know, the pamphlet that was put together,
Mhm.
it's listed there, but it's not an official historic.
So it doesn't limit you on the B&G work that needs to be done?
No, we're not limited on anything, but the board does control a lot of what gets done. We don't allow any structural changes or building without our approval. And we have a historic committee that's working really hard to preserve our history. That kind of got left behind, just in files. And we started a few years ago with archiving, and I was part of that. I'm still part of that committee. And we're planning on putting together a little museum in our meeting hall.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you, what is the history of the campgrounds?
So it was founded in 1834 by the Methodist Church.
Mhm.
It served as a summer meeting grounds for Methodists. They came up from the city by ferry. And then there was actually a trolley that came from the river to Camp Woods grounds, and we would have tens of thousands of people here for meetings. And it started out as a tent community. And then slowly cottages were built. And in about in the 1940s, 1945, it was separated from the Methodist Church and became really a residential, year-round residential community. But the religious aspect was still kept up. And right now we're non-denominational, but we do still preserve the history of having summer meetings that are spiritual in nature. So we'll have a minister here. We've had a cantor here. We've had, just bands playing, or, somebody talking about the spiritual nature of bees, so we run the gamut, but we really do try to keep it up. And we do about 4 or 5 services a year that are open to the community, everybody in Austin. During the pandemic, we were limiting to friends and family, but usually it's open to everybody.
So you have like a meeting house on the grounds for these events?
Yeah, we call it the auditorium.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the building you see when you pass it. That's where you have your craft fair too, right?
Yes, that's where the craft fair is held.
I have a different question, even though this is very interesting and I'd like to learn more. But you mentioned that when you noticed that the library's programs are mostly used by, let's just say, white people, as you said.
Yes.
What programs have you participated in that you would change so that it would attract a larger representative group? from-
I'm thinking mainly of the performances that I've been to there. I haven't really participated in any of like the teen programs, obviously. But when I went to multiple musical performances, I found it to be a very homogenous audience.
Okay,
Mhm.
And I think that's something that's true of the music at the river also has been very homogenous. And I know they've been trying to change that up a little bit with some different performers. So that's something that I would think about.
We feel that the emphasis of the strategic plan will help us take a look at not just programming and not just the collection of the book collection, I should say, but also our employees and perhaps hiring. And so that's why I emphasized it initially, because we're very enthusiastic about it. And we're also hoping that it's well received.
Yeah, I'm such a proponent of that. You don't understand. I also do the measurements group on our DEI stuff. So we get to at work where we see the breakdown of really our employees. And we have a very diverse group in the Bronx, but as in most organizations, it's very diverse at the bottom and gets less and less diverse as you go up the chain. And that's something that we're trying to change.
Are you also tracking your visitors to events at your?
Yes, we do the visitors also, but not as much. We do have a very, very diverse group of visitors at the Bronx Zoo in particular.
Have you ever dealt with a union environment?
Yes, we have
Union
union employees. Yep. I deal with the union all the time in my role as a safety person at the zoo. We have our maintenance, operation, O&M staff, and all of our keepers are union.
Are they civil service as well?
They're not civil service.
And are you involved with the budget process as well?
I get involved in the capital budget process. I do my own budget for my department, but I am involved in the capital budget process. And I'm also involved in getting grant funding from the city for energy projects. So I've put together a number of grant applications on that front.
We have about a minute remaining in our time allotment.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any additional questions for Brenda or anything like to share? Karen, the floor includes you.
Thank you, Matt. I was just wondering if you could very quickly, since there's only a minute, just sort of encapsulate why you would like to be a trustee.
Oh my God, so quickly. I love libraries. I've gotten a library card at every single place I've lived in my entire life, including the town I lived in college. And I think the Ossining Library is a fantastic library in general. The whole Westchester library system is great. And I think it's important to serve the community. And I think this is something that I'm passionate about. So I would really enjoy it.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you, Brenda. If there are no additional questions at this time, we will be in touch, and
Okay.
we appreciate your effort and your joining us tonight.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Can I make a couple of suggestions?
Of course.
So
Motion to get out of bed. Return to the regular meeting. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. We're adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
good night.
Right.